Shalom, peace and blessings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to this class in the midst of this feast of unleavened bread. We just concluded the first day, which is a holy Shabbat, a holy convocation. And now we're going into the rest of the days, the second day of the feast, and going to be continuing in. Now, we're going to start off with a series about the Messiah himself. And it's important to go through that because he was, as it says in scriptures, he was our Passover. He became the sacrifice of the Passover. So as we feast in this feast, we're going to be talking about him and his characteristics. But first, I know you see on the thumbnail, it's not my face. I'm opening for Priest Hannah. Well, we want to talk about a topic that has been pervasive amongst Israelites for a minute, and it's very befitting right now because of the time that we're in. The time where in antiquity, the Messiah was crucified and sacrificed to become our Passover to consecrate the covenant. Now let's go to Galatians 3:13, and we're going to read that, Priest Rashim.
The Messiah has redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree.
So now you see brothers and sisters taking this scripture and they say, see, it says Christ was hung on a tree. This means they tied a rope around his neck and strung him up on a tree like they did us. That's not what they're talking about. First of all, there's some deep information in here, and you're just skipping over all that to look at hanged on a tree. What about all the other scriptures that say crucified? Matter of fact, he says it in this same chapter. Go up to the first verse, priest, and look what Paul said about the Messiah.
O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you, that ye should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Yahushua the Messiah have been evidently set forth, crucified among you.
He was crucified. He says it right there in the same chapter. Now let's go to John 3:19, or John 19, and pick up in the 16th verse, priest. All these scriptures say crucified, but you pick out one in Galatians and two in Acts and say, see, nah, it was a tree. He put him on a tree that's rooted in the ground and strung him up by his neck. Let's get John 19, verse 16, priest.
Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified.
All right, but there's preponderance of scriptures that say crucified instead. Let's read on.
And they took Yahushua and led him away. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha.
So he bore his cross. He carried that cross. And Chief Priest mentioned that in the Q&A of a class not too long ago. You think he got a tree, an oak tree, and uprooted that thing and walked it down to Golgotha? That doesn't make any sense. Now, since I'm just doing the intro, we won't go through it, but we can go into the lexicon here. And that word zulon for tree is the same thing for wood. And it actually comes from, and even when you look at cross or crucifixion, crucified, it comes from the same word that means stake or cross. This does not mean he was hung on a tree. It doesn't make any sense. It means he was hung on wood. Where you get wood from? From a tree. It doesn't mean that he got strung up on a tree. And what would be the purpose of that? What is the end result if he got hung on a tree? Nothing. You've proved nothing. But if he's on a cross, it makes all the difference. And we'll show you why. But first, let's go back to Galatians 3:13, priest. And read that. And if you would grab Priest Uriah, Deuteronomy 21, verse 22.
The Messiah hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us.
So this is the key part in this verse, is that he redeemed us from the curse of Moses' covenant that was upon us because we broke it. And he did that by becoming a curse for us, as it's written. Yet they skip over all of that and just say this, just highlight this part.
For it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree.
Christ is hung on a tree. All right, brother, tell me what curse is. Tell me what it means he redeemed us from the curse. Tell me how he did that. When you can do that, then I'll listen to you. All right? I don't want to hear nothing about him being put on a tree. Now, we know Christians are off. They don't know anything about scriptures, but this is one thing they got right, all right? they got the cross right. What they do with the cross, they got it wrong. We don't put that around our neck and put it on our walls and get, a half-naked white man, put him on the wall, on the cross, and bow down to that. We don't make rosaries on our face. We don't do that. Yes, they got all that stuff wrong. But the fact that he was crucified on a cross, that is not wrong. That is actually what happened. And there's a reason to that. First, let's analyze this, how he redeemed us from the curse of the law. What is it talking about? Curse of any man that was hung on a tree. Let's go to Deuteronomy 21 and pick up at the 22nd verse, priest.
And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree.
This is what happens. This is what they're referencing in Galatians. Deuteronomy 21 and 22. If somebody commits a sin so heinous and so wicked that you slay him, and you decide, let me give an example of what not to do. Let me show you this wicked person. You can hang him on a tree or hang him on a stake. Let's read on.
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day. For he that is hanged is a curse of Yahweh, that thy land be not defiled, which the Most High thy Abba giveth thee for an inheritance.
So this is what the statute was talking about. If you hang a man up, string his body up after you've killed him because of a heinous iniquity, you can't leave him up all day. You can't leave him up into the next day. You had to take him and bury him. The Most High does not want you to leave your dead out in the open for forever. This is what some of the Gentiles did. They would string somebody up, and they would be out there till his body was rotting. Most High said, you don't do that. Yeah, okay, you want to show off how wicked this person is and not to do that? Give an example of what not to do? Sure, do that. Bring that curse to an end, but bury him that day. Let's go now, if you would, to 2 Maccabees 15. We'll show an example of our Hebrew brethren doing this. 2 Maccabees 15, and if you pick up in the first verse, priest Rashim. And look at the context of what's being said here, all right? You do a sin worthy of death. This was not something you just did to anybody. This is not just, you stole something, brother, we're going to hang you up. It wasn't that. It was, this brother blasphemed. This brother is engaged in idolatry and abominations. String him up, hang him on this post, and it wasn't exactly a tree. It's the same thing we talked about, a piece of wood. They put him on a post and then said, as an example of what not to do, that this brings a severe curse against Israel. Let's see an example of this. 2 Maccabees, priest.
But Nicanor, hearing that Judas and his company were in the strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set upon them on the Sabbath day. Nevertheless,
so now we see this wicked Greek coming up and trying to war against Judas Maccabeus. He said, I'm going to make them fight on the Shabbat day. He's seeking to profane Abba's holy days. And what else?
Nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him said, O destroy not so cruelty and barbarously, but give honor to that day, which he that seeth all things hath honored with holiness above other days. Then the most ungracious, wretched, demanded if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept. And when they said, there is in heaven a living Lord and mighty who commanded the seventh day to be kept, then said the other, and I also am mighty upon the earth, and I command to take arms and to do the king's business.
So look at the wickedness that he is imposing. Is there a God in heaven that told you to do a Sabbath? Absolutely, Nicanor. We are not going to do that. Well, I'm the God on earth. You're going to break that Shabbat. I command you. This man was an abomination on earth. Read on.
Yet he obtained not to have his wicked will done. So Nicanor, in exceeding pride and haughtiness, determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Judas and them that were with him.
So he's so wicked that even though he didn't get that done, he didn't cause them to break the Shabbat. He said, well, I'm gonna make a monument to my victory anyway. Y'all lost by default. I'm the greatest on the earth. Let's jump down to the 25th verse, priest.
Verse 25. Then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with trumpets and songs. But Judas and his company encountered the enemies with invocation and prayer, so that fighting with their hands and praying unto Abba with their hearts, they slew no less than 30 and 5,000 men. For through the appearance of Abba Yahweh, they were greatly cheered. Now when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language. And Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love toward his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem.
So he's doing the statute that was outlined to us by Moses in Deuteronomy. I am going to hang this person up as an example of what not to do. This was some high abomination. He was a blasphemer. We are going to show that off and hang him up. So, but they didn't obviously take his whole body. He said he chopped off his head. And then what? Read on.
And his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem. Verse 31. So when he was there and had called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower and showed them vile Nicanor's head and the hand of the blasphemer, which the proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty. And when he had cut out the tongue of the ungodly Nicanor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls and hang up the reward of his madness before the temple. So every man praised toward the heaven the glorious Lord, saying, Blessed be he that keep his own place undefiled. And he hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all the help of the Most High.
So they hung up his head. What does it mean they hung his head if it was cut off? How you hang up a head? How you tie a rope around a decapitated head and hang it? No, you put it on a stake and raise it up. It doesn't mean that you hang a full body by its neck. You don't hang a decapitated head. You put it on a stake. And this is what they did. You're losing out on the verbiage by trying to apply modern terms to it and modern understandings. That's what they did to us. Yes, they did that in our history, in our recent history in the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. That's what they did to us. They strung us up by our necks. But this is not what happened to the Messiah. This is not what happened in Nicanor. We don't see examples of that being done within our scriptures. Let's get another example of them doing this in Numbers 25:1. But first, read that last verse one more time, priest.
Was that verse 33?
Come on.
Verse 33. And when he had cut out the tongue.
35, actually.
35. He hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all the help of the Most High.
This is the reason why you do that. It is an evident and manifest sign of the help of Abba Yahweh. So you do that to recognize and praise the Most High, not because of the death of your enemy, but because the Most High was the one who helped you. You recognize this got rid of the plague, of the curse, of calamity and destruction upon Israel. This is why the Israelites were hanging people up. The Gentiles were doing that as a sign of, look at my power, look at my authority, don't try me. But Israel did this as a sign of, remember the Most High. See what happened to this brother when he went against Abba Yahweh? Curse be upon him, but blessing upon us. Let's show that same thing in Numbers 25:1, priest.
And Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their deities, and the people did eat and bow down to their deities.
So hopefully we know the context. For those who have been with the House of Wisdom for a minute should know, this is the scheme of Balaam and Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel to accuse them. And they got accused. A curse came upon them. What happened?
And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of the Most High was kindled against Israel. And the Most High said unto Moses, Take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Most High against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Most High may be turned away from Israel.
We see the same thing happening. The Israelites transgressed, joined themselves to Baal Peor, to idolatry, and the Most High's anger was kindled against them, brought plagues and calamities against them. This is what the Most High commanded Moses: strike off the heads of everybody who bowed the knee to this wicked idol and hang it up. Once again, how you hanging up a head? You put it on a stake. It wasn't strung up with some rope. Put that on a piece of wood, attach it to it, affix it to it, and hang it up. And when that was done, it was a sign of the power of Abba Yahweh, and his wrath was turned away. This is what happened. We're losing our culture talking about, he was hung up on a tree and he was strung up by his neck, and that's not proving anything. That's not showing anything. Let's dig into this further. Let's finish that up, and if you would get Joshua 7, priest. And we'll dig into this a little bit further, and hopefully this will give us some understanding on what the Messiah did by being not strung up by his neck, but affixed to a piece of wood known as a cross. Read on.
Verse 5. And Moses said unto the judges of Israel, slay ye every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. And behold, one of the children of Israel came.
All right, we'll stop it right there. So they slayed everyone, took off their heads, and hung them up. Not with rope, but affixed it to a stake or a piece of wood. This is the old English, still the same as hanging something up. Doesn't have to be strung up by its neck. That is modern English. That's modern culture for us. Don't equate your modern culture, your modern understanding to something ancient. And also, you're missing the greater point by saying he wasn't on a cross. But we'll get to that in a second. Joshua 7:1, priest.
But the children of Israel committed a trespass in the accursed thing.
Now we see an accursed thing. And when you engage in an accursed thing, something happens. Read on.
For Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah of the tribe of Judah, took the accursed thing, and the anger of the Most High was kindled against the children of Israel. And Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Bethaven, on the east of Bethel, and spake unto them, saying, go up and view the country. And the men went up and viewed Ai.
So, for time's sake, we'll skip through this. Let's go to the 10th verse. But we see Achan, he took a Babylonian garment. He engaged in the culture of these other nations. He took something, when they went to the conquest of Jericho, he took some of those vessels and some of those idols, some of those abominations, and hid them. It was an accursed thing, something that brought a curse upon Israel. And now they went up to battle against Ai, and they lost. And Joshua was dismayed. All of Israel was dismayed. They were worried. They were saddened. And they said, how did this happen? How did the Most High say he was going to be with us? And the Most High returned back to Joshua this in the 10th verse.
Verse 10. And the Most High said unto Joshua, get thee up. Wherefore liest thou thus upon thy face? Israel hath sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them.
This is what we have done also. We have sinned. We have transgressed the covenant that Abba commanded us to engage in. And that makes us accursed. Read on.
For they have even taken of the accursed thing, and have also stolen and disassembled also, and they have put it even among their own stuff. Therefore the children of Israel could not stand before their enemies, but turned their backs before their enemies, because they were accursed. Neither will I be with you anymore, except ye destroy the accursed from among you.
Now that's a powerful point. Abba said, I will not be with you. You are accursed. You have transgressed my covenant. You have sinned. I will not be with you. Unless you make restitution on what you have done. Unless you destroy the accursed thing from among the people. Read on.
Verse 13. Up, sanctify the people, and say, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow. For thus saith the Most High Abba Yahweh of Israel, there is an accursed thing in the midst of thee, O Israel. Thou cannot stand before thine enemies until you take away the accursed thing from among you.
All right, now jump to the 19th verse.
Verse 19. And Joshua said unto Achan, my son, give, I pray thee, glory to the Most High Abba, Yahweh of Israel, and make a confession unto him, and tell me now what thou hast done, hide it not from me. And Achan answered Joshua and said, indeed, I have sinned against the Most High Abba Yahweh of Israel, and thus have I done.
So, and it was beautiful how the Most High orchestrated. He said, get all the children of Israel, all the tribes, assemble them according to the tribe. And the Most High directed them specifically the tribe that caused the curse, Judah. And then out of Judah, go to specifically to the family. Everybody else is dismissed. The Most High brought Joshua specifically to his house of Zabdi. And out of him, Achan. It was probably 2 seconds. And it was already figured out what was the issue. He was like, something's off with you, brother. I see something in your spirit that's going off. I confess to the Most High and tell me what you've done. Read on.
Verse 21. When I saw among the spoils of goodly Babylonish garment and 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight, then I coveted them and took them, and behold, they are hid in the earth in the midst of my tent, and the silver under it. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran unto the tent, and behold, it was hid in his tent, and the silver under it. And they took them out of the midst of the tent, and brought them unto Joshua and to all the children of Israel.
Jump down to the 25th verse. So he brought a Babylonish garment. We talked about this in the true fringe classes. Had a garment for their sacrificial rites and their idols, a garment with tassels hanging all from it, something we are not to engage in, and that brought forth this curse upon Israel. And the Most High said, because you are accursed, because sin is in you, I'm not going to dwell with you. I'm not going to deal with you. You're going to lose at everything you do. Set your hand, whatever you set your hand to, it is over with. So now here was the remedy. Get rid of the accursed thing. If somebody had done a sin worthy of death, kill him and not string him up, but mount him up, show an example of the Heavenly Father and his power. What did they do to Achan?
Verse 25. And Joshua said, why hast thou troubled us? The Most High shall trouble thee this day. And all of Israel stoned him with stones and burned them with fire, and they had stoned them with stones.
All right, we'll drop that for time's sake. If you'll get Genesis 4, Priest, are you right? If you get Deuteronomy 28. Genesis 4 and 7, we'll go straight to the point. So they had to utterly destroy everything that he touched, everything that he dealt with. It said his wife, it said his cattle, it said his house, everything had to be utterly destroyed to remove this curse and this plague from Israel. So what does it mean to be accursed? We're going to go back to that Galatians 3 as well. Behold that Deuteronomy. We're going to go there first. What is curse? What is that? We already know Deuteronomy 28, that these are the curses that shall come upon us that's how we know that we are Israel, because those curses fit us. But what does it mean? What is a curse? How do you get cursed? Let's read first in Genesis 4 and 7, Priest.
If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted?
All right. If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted. This should sound very familiar to anybody that has studied Deuteronomy 28. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 1.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Most High thy Abba, to observe and do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Most High thy Abba will set thee high above all the nations of the earth, and all the blessings that shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy Abba.
So Deuteronomy 28 is really an elongated Genesis 4 and 7. So the Most High said to Cain, if you do well, shall thou not be accepted? Or AKA, if you hearken to Abba Yahweh, all these blessings shall overtake you. Now, what's the flip side of it? Go to the 15th verse, Priest, and then we're going to finish up Genesis 4 and 7.
Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy Abba, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So now we see, if you do not hearken, if you rebel, you shall be accursed. Curses shall come upon you. Now, anybody who knows Genesis 4 and 7 knows what's coming next. Let's read it, Priest.
And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door.
If you do not well, or if you do not hearken to Abba Yahweh, curses shall come upon you, or sin shall come upon you. Sin, this spirit of sin and curse are synonymous. Israel was cursed because sin is upon us. It wasn't just, it's not this magic spell. It is Satan bringing sin, and sin equates to the curse. Sin brings forth the curse upon us. And you know you have sin on you when you're cursed. If you see you're put on a slave ship and ferried across the entire ocean, you should know, if you study the scripture, you should know why. Because sin was on you. It's not just, I ate some pork, now I'm automatically on a slave ship. Nah, it's Satan accused you for that and made you not only eat pork, but now he made you break the Shabbat. Now he made you bring forth idols into the temple of Abba, and that brought forth a curse upon you, other destruction and plagues and calamities. The curse and sin are synonymous. So now if you will go to Uriah, Exodus 29:1, and now go to Galatians 3:4, and Abba willing, this will make all the sense in the world now at this point. Go ahead and read that. Galatians 3, and I think it's the 13th verse.
Galatians 3:13. The Messiah hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us. For it is written.
So what it means is the Messiah redeemed us from the curse that came because we sinned in Moses' covenant, redeeming us from that sin and that curse. And it said he became a curse for us. Everybody wants to focus on you got hung on a tree, but never that he became a curse for us. That sounds like it doesn't make any sense. He redeemed us, but he was a curse to us? It doesn't make sense for somebody who doesn't understand. It means that he became sin for us, aka a sin offering. And if you start muddying this up with some New Age understanding, you will never understand what this really is talking about.
God.
Let's go to Exodus 29:1, priest, and pick up in the first verse.
And this is the thing that thou shalt do unto them to hallow them, to minister unto me in the priest's office.
All right. So now we see that this is the consecration of the priest. And this is what the Messiah did as well. This is what it means when he became a curse for us. We're going to get to that and show that. Oh, Malachi 3:1, priest. Read on.
Take one young bullock and 2 rams without blemish, and unleavened bread and cakes unleavened, tempered with oil, and wafers unleavened, anointed with oil. Of wheaten flour shalt thou make them. And thou shalt put them into one basket, and bring them in the basket with the bullock and the 2 rams.
So to consecrate the priest, to prepare them to minister in the priest office, this is what you had to do in Moses' covenant. You had to bring a bullock and 2 rams. And he's going to tell you what you do with each of these animals for this physical consecration. Jump down to the 10th verse. And before we do that, now let's read through it.
Verse 10. And thou shalt cause a bullock to be brought before the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron and his sons shall put their hands upon the head of the bullock. And thou shalt kill the bullock before the Most High, by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And thou shalt take of the blood of the bullock, and put it upon the horns of the altar with thy finger, and pour all the blood beside the bottom of the altar. And thou shalt take all the fat that covereth the inwards, and the caul that is above the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, and burn them upon the altar. But the flesh of the bullock, and his skin, and his dung, shalt thou burn with fire without the camp. It is a sin offering.
It is a sin offering. You can't consecrate the priest without first doing a sin offering for them. So you had to bring forth this sin offering. This is why Aaron and his sons laid their heads or their hands on the bullock to confess their iniquity, to remove sin from them, to get rid of the curse from Aaron and his sons. This is what the Messiah was doing, and we'll prove that without doubt. Let's go to Malachi 3:1, priest.
Behold, I will send my messenger and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Most High whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Most High of hosts.
Jump to the third verse. So this is talking about the Messiah, the Prince. This is talking about how John the Baptist came, brought forth the way, prepared the way by baptizing and consecrating the saints to be ready for the coming of the Messiah. And then in doing so, what would the Messiah come and do?
Verse 3, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi.
He shall purify the priesthood. Once again, you're listening to people who don't know this. All the people talking about getting strung up by his neck, he was really hung. I heard people say he was put on a torture stake. They lifted up his arm so he would choke to death. What's the purpose of that? You're missing the key points. He became this curse or this sin offering to consecrate the priesthood, to purify them so that they may do something. Read on.
And purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Most High an offering in righteousness.
That they may offer an offering. Purge them, clean them with a sin offering so that they can get busy in the ministration of the priesthood. This is what the Messiah came and did. And we'll prove that, again, going in Exodus 29. Pick up where you left off, priest. Actually, read that 14th verse again.
But the flesh of the bullock and his skin and his dung shall thou burn with fire without the camp. It is a sin offering.
It is a sin offering to consecrate the priest. This is what the Messiah did, becoming a curse for us, or becoming a sin, aka a sin offering for the priesthood, so they can offer an offering in righteousness. But we're not done yet. You can't just give a sin offering to the priest and they're consecrated. You had to do more. You did that to start it off. You couldn't consecrate them with sin in them. You can't consecrate Aaron and Eleazar and Ithamar if they're full of sin. So get rid of the sin first. Now bring, as it says in Exodus, the ram of consecration. Jump down to the 26th verse, Priest Uriah.
And thou shalt take the breast of the ram of Aaron's consecration and wave it for a wave offering.
So to consecrate the priest, you had to give that sin offering, that accursed offering, quote unquote, and then you had to bring this breast of the wave offering of the consecration where you brought it side to side. You waved it. Now what else?
For a wave offering before the Most High, and it shall be thy part. And thou shalt sanctify the breast of the wave offering, and the shoulder of the heave offering.
And the shoulder of the heave offering. So you brought a wave and a heave. Once again, a wave and a heave. For those who don't know, they brought a cross. And this is Moses. Moses making a cross. And this was the consecration of the priest. So now you're going in dangerous waters if you say he was strung up by his neck on a tree. Or if you say he was put on a torture stake and his arms were raised above him and he was choking to death. You are in dangerous waters because you're negating everything he did. You are literally, whether you know it or not, an antichrist. You are saying, going against the mission of the Messiah. He came in Malachi, said to purify the sons of Levi, purify the priests so that they may offer an offering in righteousness unto Abba Yahweh. You're basically saying, Exodus 29 doesn't exist. He became that sin offering, an accursed thing, and also on a cross, a heave and a wave to consecrate the priest. So his priest, the disciples, could go and consecrate the people. And you are essentially negating everything the Messiah did by espousing the doctrine of him not being on a cross. Finish that up.
Which is waved and which is heaved up of the ram of the consecration, even that which is for Aaron and of that which is for his sons.
So I don't know how else we can make it that's clear in a short period of time. But the Messiah was indeed and definitely crucified for a very specific reason, to consecrate the priest. But people who don't understand the priesthood, don't understand sin, don't understand oblations, are trying to teach us about, he was hung up on a tree. Because you see one or two scriptures that say hung on a tree versus the 50 that say he was crucified. And to what end? There is no end. There is no purpose. It's just Satan so he can add sin to sin. Don't fall for his traps. Don't fall for his schemes. And we're going through this as we kickstart this series where we're talking about the Messiah and his depiction. Because there's also another false doctrine going around. Brothers read Revelations 1 and say, look, Christ was a black man. How simple can we be? John is going up into the spirit, getting all types of revelations, and the best he can get is the Most High is black, or the Messiah is black. That's the best he can get. Now, we know the Messiah came on earth in the body of a black, dark-skinned man. That is not, in the question. That is fact. The Israelites were black. But what does that have to do with anything spiritual? Absolutely nothing. We're missing the full point because we don't understand the priesthood. And this is what, Abba willing, we're going to go through today with Priest Johanna. But before we do, let's make sure we're ensuring that the priests have what they need to offer these oblations, these sacrifices that the Messiah purified us to do. In doing that, we need these tithe offerings. We need the bread, the wine, the oil, the incense, everything needed to bring forth the sacrifice to Abba Yahweh. And the Most High has put on the spirit of the priest the ability to bring these things and put them together. Now, we can't just go to the store, to Walmart, and get some flour and bring that. What's in that flour? Enriched, bleached wheat flour. You think the Most High wants that? You think he wants that genetically modified crap in his oblations? What about the wine? Did y'all know that there's wine, that you got to ask for vegan wine now? Why? Because they take some pork gelatin or some shellfish goop and put that in your wine to refine it. And that makes it unclean, unfit to sacrifice. So what's the solution? Try to make sure everybody knows what's acceptable, or make sure there's one source where there's acceptable offerings coming from. And that is what we did from the priesthood. Brought forth acceptable, vegan, all natural wine and flour for the meat and the drink offering that the Messiah said to take. That is his body. To drink, that is his blood, for the consecration of the covenant. This is what we do. We don't go outside to do it. We do it all in-house to make sure that it's acceptable to Abba Yahweh. I don't know any other Hebrews doing that because no other Hebrews know about sacrifice. So we have procured everything needed for the oblations, from the oil, the incense, the salt, to make sure that everything is acceptable before the Most High, not this trash that we're getting in the stores and everywhere else. If you start growing your own stuff, that's good. Bring that as tithes. But until then, this is what we're doing. This is what we have. We have all types of yayan wine for the peace and vow and Thanksgiving offerings. So many flavors that the Spirit has given us, and we're seeing through the translation, this is how it was. It wasn't just grapes. It was all types of fruit. We see the tree of life bring forth 12 manners of fruit in its month. So we have all types of pineapple. We have mango, cherry, all types of different wines to be used for the sacrifice and oblations, an absolute necessity for any of the saints. Another thing that's a necessity for any of the saints is a calendar. You got all types of people debating on when Passover is. You got people talking about Passover is in April 22nd, April 26th or something like that. Why did you say that? Oh, we looked it up. Oh, okay. The Khazars told you we do Passover on April 26th this year, so that's when you're going to do it. Way deep into the summer season, well after so-called spring, and that's when y'all doing it? Or y'all doing it according to a moon? We have debunked this time and time and time and time and time again. And some tell us we're going to have to do it again. And Abba willing, we will. But for those who know, you got to get a calendar. A biblical calendar is absolute necessity. The 10 Commandments are all predicated on worshiping Abba in due season. And without a calendar, you cannot do that. And all praise the Most High that He has allowed us to roll out this 7th edition of the House of Wisdom Calendrical Bible Study Guide. Once again, an absolute necessity for all the saints to have. Now, we have the physical copies online on our website at shekinah.com/calendar. You can get that and actually order one and have that sent to you. Let's pull up the link so everybody can get that. shekinah.com/calendar. Now, if you compare it to the last edition that were released, you'll see this one's very, very thin. So this one's just really 26 pages. It is literally just a calendar. It is just all the dates. The first month, Yashobim, not a bib. We've covered that as well. 7th month of Helez, not Ethanim. We've covered that also yesterday. We have these dates on when these feasts are, even this Feast of Unleavened Bread right now that we're in. Now, there's a reason we condensed it. Not because we're getting rid of the information, because we're putting that and packaging it in an even better way, a more efficient way for all the saints. We are currently working on a calendar app. And I'll be willing that app, we've had problems. Our system was down and it wouldn't send out the digital copy last year when we were doing that. With an app, you just go and download it from your app store. And with that, you have everything you need to fully understand this biblical calendar. So get a physical copy. Make sure you get the app once it comes out. We're still working on it, but it's got so many features. And I'm going to pass over to Priest Rashim, and he's going to cover some of those features that you'll find on the Calendrical Bible Study app that the House of Wisdom is bringing out. You got it, Priest.
If you would, bring up the image of they say the city Adam with the tree of life, showing a lot of bilga on the image. So as Priest Yardon mentioned, the physical calendar is an abridged version, just simply a calendar. And this digital app, we're very excited about because the potential of it is unlimited. We can do so much in a digital world in terms of getting you lots of information for edification. And so what we want to do today was show you some of the digital calendar so you can put your eyes on it. Now I have to preface it. This is just a still shot. We don't have the ability to kind of play with it as we show it to you. So this calendar is going to be interactive. It's going to have a fun component to it. That fun component will allow you to learn and retain this information a lot more. But as you see here on the screenshot that you're viewing, this will be what they would call the splash page or the landing page of the digital app. So once you purchase this app, you'll have to create a profile and log information. And once you set that all up, this will be the first page that you get to. And so you can see here on a scroller that say City of Adam, and beneath it, you'll see the lot or the that you're currently in. And all this is going to be based on your time zone. So right now, this is in its beta stage. There's actually an error on here that say Bilga. When I took the screenshot of this image, we were in a lot of Bilga in the night watch. But it says 15th lot, it says 9:03 p.m., and it says COT. That's an error. We're getting all these things ironed out with the developers. But that's actually the City of Adam time. But the way it's set up, it's going to convert whatever time zone you're in, or you can actually see it on your phone. In the image, it says 5:03. So this is Eastern Standard Time. But if you're in Mountain Standard Time, Pacific Standard Time, it's going to show the correct lot. And then also you see the tree of life. So this page is interactive. So this tree here, you can actually swipe left or right on it. And it's going to show you, if you would bring up the slide that says summer season. And let me see, let me just get with you. It'll just be the tree of life. Half of it is grayed out. Okay, there we go. Is it up? I think that's okay, well, it'll come up. But so yeah, again, this is interactive. You can swipe. When you swipe on the tree of life, it'll show you the summer side. When you swipe left, it'll show you the summer side of the tree. You swipe right, it'll show you the winter side of the tree. And it's interactive because you can touch on the 3-pronged fruit, that branch for the month, and it's going to display some information. So, okay, so we have it up now. So as you see here, when you swipe left on it, you see that the left side of the tree is grayed out. That's the winter side. It's displaying the summer side. So you can see all the months. On the right side, there's 6 months. And then you see the 2 bowls in the middle, which are the intercalary days. And so if you touch on the first branch, And if you would, we'll bring up that image touching on the first branch. Oh, there we go. When you touch on the first branch, it'll show you all the high holy days and the feast days and the things that pertain to that month in the scroll. So the scroll at the top of the screen will scroll down, and it'll show you all that information. And you can do this with all the corresponding buds on the tree to give you information. So, on the calendar, when you had the still shots, there were charts for this, but now you can interact with it, and it'll show all this information. So next, what we'll go to is we want to, if you would, pull up the screenshot of the menu, and we'll show you with what all that the app entails at this moment. Like I said, we're setting the bar high on this very first edition of the digital calendar app. Each year when we get into this, it's going to become more robust. It's going to be refined. There's going to be more bells and whistles. But as it stands right now, there's a lot to it. And so right here at the menu, you see the city of Adam. There's going to be information on that. That was the first landing page that you saw with the tree of life. Then you have the tree of life, and it has a calendar, cycle of the year, and so forth. So these are all the things that are going to be in a digital app. So this is going to be way more than, I forget how many pages were in the calendar last year. There's going to be a ton of information in this. There's a knowledge section here. So if you want more information on a particular thing, you can click on it and get the understanding for whatever it is, for whatever topic it is that you're looking into as it pertains to the calendar. So we're going to let me show you another one, another interactive one that's kind of a fun part of the app. If we can bring up the cycle of the year image, it's kind of like a half wheel. There we go. Let me get there with you. Yeah, so the cycle of the year, this is a fun part of the app. So this is an interactive part too. You can spin the wheel. Those that are familiar with the calendar and the cycle of the year diagram, you know that it's a full circle. It's only showing half here. But the fun thing about this particular page is you take your finger, put it on the intercalary dash. You can see one of the circles on the diagram, and you can turn it right, and it'll spin. And as it sets, as that intercalary day sets in its position, the motif in the background will change to that season. So right now it's set on the vernal equinox. When you turn it to the summer solstice, it's going to be a summer theme. Then when you turn it to the autumnal equinox, it's going to come to a fall theme. And then the winter season, a winter theme. So the different divisions within each quadrant for each month, you'll be able to click on that, and it's going to advance you to the calendar. And if you would, let's bring up the calendar view of the app. And we'll wait for that to come up. All right. So this is I guess we didn't do the 6-month view, but we'll go with this. So this is H.O.W, the month that we're in now. And the information that's in this calendar is current. And so there'll be, when you go to the calendar, you can click on a month, pull up the grid for that month, and get a quick shot, like a snapshot of the month. But then also when you click on the days, it will blow up the day that you've selected, and you can get additional information on that day. And if you would, let's bring up the screenshot for the day of the month. And so as you see here, it says the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And it also has the moon phase. If you look in the bottom right of the corner, like in the calendrical study guide, it has the moon phases embedded into it. And so you'll be able to touch on that moon, and it'll tell you what waxing or waning part of that moon is. And then you can go further to the knowledge section to get more information on what that means, if you want that information. Also, a nice feature in this, if we pull up if we can go back to the page with the day that we were in, I just want to highlight that you see at the top of the page, it says set notifications. So in here, there's going to be preset notifications, alarms that you can choose to notify you on a particular lot. So if you want to be reminded that I want to get into the 9th lot of Yeshua on so-called March 28th, which would be the 17th of Yashabim, you would just pull up that day, set that alarm, and when that time comes, your phone is going to chime, and we're going to have some custom alarms that you can put. For instance, when that time comes, it'll be, Hear, O Israel, the Most High Abba, Yahweh is one. And then you'll hear a horn blow, and it'll notify you of that time. So it's pretty cool. So we're going to be very interactive. So with that, we'll just kind of want to show you today. If we go, we can go to the moon phase section. So with this, as in the calendrical study guide, there's a moon phase section where you saw the full diagram of this. Here it's cropped and it's interactive. So you can take your finger and scroll like a rotary dial and look at all the moon phases. And so in here, in this particular image, it's set on this 5th moon part on the waxing side, the waxing part of the moon. And so again, here it'll advance you to the Nada section to get more information on what that means. And so very fun. Like I said, it's very interactive, very cool. I mean, we want to make the app fun. You know, a lot of this information is complex. We try to simplify it as much as we can, and then also make it fun and interactive, you know, so you can get a lot of value in what you're paying for. And then lastly, I believe that's it. There's one last image. I actually got ahead of myself. If we go back to the city Adam, there'll be the scroll that shows you the month and the day. And it'll be a scroll that says the city Adam, first month of Yashabim. There we go. So on that landing page, if you click on the where it showed the lot, you can click on a scroll and it's going to show you what the current month and day is, if it's a curse wind, and what constellation we're in. So again, fully interactive. Right now, it's in the beta stages. Our plan was to kind of hope that we could have it released by today or by yesterday, actually. But there was some things with the developers. There was things that we had to iron out, and we couldn't push it out to everyone. But again, the very proud, very, very excited about this particular app. I think that the congregation and those that purchase it will fully enjoy it. Like I said, it's a fun app. Also, it's a piece where you're talking to someone. You can share with them about the true worship of the Most High. Whip out your phone and show particular details. But yeah, with that, hopefully we'll have this out, Most High willing, by next weekend, before the Feast of Unleavened Bread is completed. And we'll have more information as it pertains to that on the cost and how you can get it. Also, this is going to be on the Android platform and the Apple platform. So you can go to the Apple Store and pull up this app, or the Google Play Store and locate this app. So with that being said, I'll give the floor over to the lead teacher for the Shabbat lesson, Priest Yohana.
Shalom, I'm Priest Yohana. Today's class, we're going to talk about Abba's, or Yahweh Shai's, eyes. His eyes in the spirit, which is the eyes of fire. Now, as Priest Yeridon have brought out, that there's many false depictions of this particular chapter and verses. And it's so ridiculous that they should be ashamed to even try to make these depictions. First and foremost, it's not disagreeable that Yahweh Shai was indeed a black man. And not just a black man, but he was of Shem. He was Judah. There's no argument there. But where the problem lies is when we have so-called artists making depictions of something they don't understand that is spiritual. And the reason being is because they're worshiping in the flesh and not worshiping in the spirit. When you worship in the flesh, you're going to do fleshly things. But when you worship in the spirit, you will do spiritual things and you will receive spiritual gifts. So as we talk upon this week, Most High's will, Revelations chapter 1, verses 13 through 16, our hope is to share the spiritual understanding so you won't be deceived and fooled by a depiction of pictures that are all over the internet, reference the flames of fire by Yahweh or his whole depiction. It's almost cartoonish. If you think about it, how do you paint fire in someone's eyes? It doesn't make any sense. You look at some depictions of it, it almost looks like this particular black man with an afro of white hair is intoxicated or high. It's embarrassing. Why would you depict Yahweh in that way? So let's not go with those depictions. Let's go with the spiritual understanding, what Yahweh in Revelations 1, chapter 1, verse 13 through 16, what he really looked like spiritually. So when John was talking about Yahweh in his vision, when he was called up to heaven, he was called up to heaven in spirit. He saw Yahweh in spirit. He painted a depiction of Yahweh in Revelation chapter 1, verse 13 to 16, trying to show what he saw. He was not depicting a fleshly man. Yahweh has put on the earthly flesh one time. He's not going to do it again. Okay? He did what he needed to do with that. So Yahweh, being in the eyes of fire, we're going to talk about how his eyes of fire, even though when he was walking this earth in the flesh, he also used his spiritual eyes to see the realm that we had difficulty seeing, which is the spiritual realm, which is the realm that we're at war against every single day. And that realm is the realm of sin. So let's go talk about Yahweh and his eyes of fire. Now, we are in the second day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So before we get into the depiction of Yahweh's spiritual depiction, let's talk about leaven and unleavened. Priest Uriah, would you please pull up for me and read for me leaven? What is the definition of leaven?
Leaven. A substance, typically yeast, that is used in dough to make it rise.
So leaven is something that is used in yeast. Is yeast good or bad? Before we find out, what's the verb definition of leaven?
Cause dough or bread to rise by adding yeast or another leavening agent.
So it's causing yeast to rise. Is that a good thing or bad thing? Let's find out. What is yeast, Priest Uriah?
Yeast, noun, a microscopic fungus consisting of single oval cells that reproduce by budding and are capable of converting sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide.
It doesn't sound like it's a good thing when yeast is rising inside you. Yeast begins as a microscopic fungus of a single oval cell that reproduces by budding and capable of converting into sugar. Microscopic means that it's so small that you can't see it without a microscope. Who here can see through their natural eyes without 20/20 vision something that is so small that you need a microscope to see? You can't do it. Even if you have 20/20 vision, just keep on living and see how long you maintain that. But if you need a microscope to see something, that's pretty small. It means it's nearly invisible. So let's get the definition of fungus.
Fungus, any of a group of spore-producing organisms feeding on organic matter, including molds, yeast, mushrooms, and toadstools.
So fungus sounds like it's something bad too. Any group of spore-producing organisms feeding on organic matter. Well, what is the human body? It is an organic matter. So what is fungal disease? Priest Uriah, let's find out what fungal disease is.
Fungal diseases, also known as mycosis, are caused by yeast or mold. They can affect anyone, but are especially serious for people with weakened immune systems or in the hospital. Fungal disease can be mild, and there are many variations of fungal disease. There's no human on earth, especially today's earth, that has not experienced some mild form of fungal disease. It can be a rash or cause some very unattractive looking fingernails or toenails, but the fungal disease can be very serious and or deadly if it gets into your bloodstream.
So we're going somewhere with all this, but before we get to where we're going, just keep hearing all this negative information, this bad things that are happening inside one's body that pertains to yeast, microscopic forms of yeast even. But let's go a little further. What is fission?
The action or dividing or splitting something into two or more parts.
This means it can spread and keep spreading until you're actively preventing the spreading of yeast. Yeast converts into sugar. What kills sugar? Salt. An antimicrobial property. That's what kills yeast. So there's reasons why we do what we do in our supplication. There's reasons why we eat what we eat. Part of the reasons is we're trying to kill yeast. Yeast is symbolic to sin. Let me repeat that. Of all the definitions that we just went through with Priest Uriah, this all as pertains to yeast. Yeast is a killer. Yeast is also microscopic. Yeast spreads. Yeast will kill you. At least make you have some ugly parts on you with the toenails and all the other issues they can bring out. So what does sodium bicarbonate do, Priest Uriah?
Baking soda or sodium bicarbonate is an effective and inexpensive antifungal property.
That's what we need to be consuming to kill yeast. This is symbolic of leavened bread. Leavened bread represents the spreading of sin, yeast being the symbolic agent to sin. Sin, as we understand here at the House of Wisdom, are evil spirits, also known as demons, also known as devil. Sin is not the visible fungal issues such as those toenails that need to be kept out of public view, or the rash that's invisible, or the bacteria infections that cause the fungus that leads to serious illness or death. Sin is what we don't see with our carnal eyes. We see the effects of sin, i.e. fungal with toenails that look totally atrocious, or skin rashes, or any other spots on the spotted lamb. All this stuff is with the inward person, the inward animal, if it's an animal sacrifice. These are things that would be considered a blemish. And therefore, we cannot be bringing before Abba Yahweh anything that is a unpure or unclean sacrifice unto him. So we know what happened with Cain when he gave a unacceptable sacrifice. And what happened with Cain? His life didn't end very well. He hated his brother, which was the microscopic yeast that he had within him. When he offered his oblation with that hatred in his heart, he gave not the first fruit, but any old fruit. Well, that was because of the microscopic yeast he had in him, the sin that he had in him. That sin that he had in him caused him to have an attitude, to say the least. And that attitude caused him to not care about his sacrifice to the Most High Abba Yahweh. But although he wanted to fulfill his sacrifice, well, I need to do this. Let me go ahead and do this. And then, therefore, the Most High didn't accept it. And then yeast continued to spread in Cain to the point where he decided, you know what, I'm not doing any more sacrifices. And then what happened? We already know what happened. He killed his brother Abel. But let's go into now Revelations chapter 1, verse 13. Priest Rishim, if you have that, can you go ahead and read that for me?
Con. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. And his feet like unto the fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as a sound of many waters. And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp 2-edged sword, and his countenance was the sun shineth in his strength.
Again, this is a spiritual embodiment of what Yahushua looked like in the vision of John. How can you depict this in the flesh? It's impossible. So why are you even trying to do that? Just so you can say he was a black man. You're not doing Yahushua any favors, nor yourself, by just saying, well, he was a black man. Here's the proof in Revelations 1, verses 13 through 16. You're making a fool out of yourself. You're being just as foolish as our Gentile brothers and sisters who made Yahushua a Gentile. It's no different. It's no different. This is not a fleshly picture that John is referencing. It's a spiritual embodiment of Yahushua. But what is this spiritual embodiment? What is John trying to show us? He knew what he was showing or writing when he was writing it out, so he didn't try to break it down because he figured we should know. But guess what? We don't know because we're making idiots out of ourselves by depicting Yahushua as a fleshly person in this Revelations chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. So therefore, I'm going to talk upon the eyes of Yahushua, which is a flaming fire within its eyes. And we're going to have other priests throughout this week bringing out the other depictions in this spiritual embodiment. And hopefully, when you get through the end of this week, you will have an understanding of the spiritual understanding of Yahushua and the depiction that John the Revelator was giving in Revelations. So, again, in the eyes of fire of Yahushua, this is all about sacrifices, worship of the Most High Yahweh, and being an acceptable sacrifice versus being an unacceptable sacrifice. So, to give us an example of this, let's go to Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1, and we're going to read all the way through verse 7. Can you go ahead and do that from your priest Risham?
Con. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Most High sit upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face, and with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Most High of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King of the Most High of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar, and he laid it upon my mouth, and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips, and thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin purged.
Uzziah was taken up to heaven in the spirit. He was not taken up to heaven in the flesh. Isaiah wasn't prepared for this moment. Isaiah knew very well about oblations and sacrifice. Now, Isaiah was worshiping and practicing sacrifices in the carnal sense in his time. He was in the 6th covenant. So for him, sacrificing was in an actual physical temple with an actual physical altar and with actual physical lambs, goats, and other forms of clean animals that were used for sacrifices in his time. But he was taken from that carnal world and into the spiritual world, which was heaven, the tabernacle in heaven, the church in heaven. And he recognized that immediately. And he knew, I am not prepared for this worship. And he was very scared because these angels are worshiping Abba Yahweh. He's before Abba Yahweh himself. And they're doing this oblation with a brazen altar right there in the spiritual realm, in the church of heaven. Now, before I go any further, we got people saying the sacrifices are done away with, but yet we see here in Isaiah that the angels in heaven are doing sacrifices, and they're still doing sacrifices today. Yahushua being crucified on a cross didn't stop spiritual sacrifices in heaven. So why would they stop sacrifices in our time today? So let's meditate on that for a minute as we go through Isaiah for a second here. Isaiah was before Abba Yahweh's throne, witnessing these angels worshiping the Most High, singing songs of praise. Everything that we do as we worship in the seventh covenant, as we worship in the course of David, he was witnessing right there. The room was filled with smoke. As you can see, if you can see it over by Priest Rashem, smoke, incense. We burn incense during our oblations. And he realized in the midst of the worship in the tabernacle in heaven, and he understood he was unclean because we go through particular steps before we even begin an oblation, and he knew he had not done this. And so he was greatly ashamed of his uncleanness. And it wasn't a willful thing of being unclean. He was brought up, and he was thinking with a carnal mindset and not with a spiritual mindset, but still nonetheless, he didn't go through all the steps that he needed to do to participate in the worship with the angels. So he cried out, "Woe unto me for my uncleanness, for I am unclean. I am unfit to worship the Most High." And the angels saw and heard his cry, and they heard his contrite and broken spirit, and they knew that it wasn't a deliberate act. So the angel in heaven took the coal off the brazen altar in heaven and purged his iniquity from him. Isaiah understood the predicament he was in and wanted to be an acceptable way of worshiping Most High Abba Yahweh in his church in heaven. And Isaiah had the iniquity that needed to be purged, which was his uncleanness. And through the flaming eyes of Abba Yahweh, this is what Abba Yahweh's spiritual eyes represent: purging iniquity, purging what is unclean, and making acceptable what is clean. Let's go to John chapter 14, verse 9 through 10. Priest Uriah, if you don't mind getting that for me. John chapter 14, verses 9 through 10.
Yahushua saith unto him, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, Show us the Father? Believe thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works.
This is powerful, and you will see how powerful this is in a moment. But Yahushua is making very, very, very clear. If you see me, you're seeing Abba Yahweh. For Abba Yahweh is in me as I am in him. And not only that, but the works that you see me do is of Abba Yahweh. So whatever works you see me do is coming from the Most High himself. That's power. Yeah, Yahushua is having to break it down to people like, hey, you're wondering, who I am and where is Abba and what Abba looks like. Well, you're looking at Abba, not proclaiming to be Abba himself. He was proclaiming that Abba was in him. And anyone who worships Abba properly, Abba will be within you too, because he will be your father. But this is the word that was made in the flesh, who was fulfilling prophecy. And Abba was in him. And let's get that understanding in Enoch chapter 14, verses 20 through 22 for me, Priest Uriah. Can you go get that question?
Con. Enoch chapter 14 and verse 20. And the great glory sat thereon, and his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. None of the angels could enter and could behold his face by reason of the magnificence and glory, and no flesh could behold him. The flaming fire was round about him, and a great fire stood before him, and none around could draw nigh him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him, yet he needed no counselor.
This is what Yahweh's eyes, flame of fire, is. It is the Most High reflecting through his eyes of fire. His eyes of fire are brighter than the sun and whiter than any snow. How are you going to depict that in a painting? I haven't seen that depiction. None of the angels could even behold the face by the reason of the magnificence of the glory that no flesh could be beholden. This description is the flame of fire of Yahweh's eye. This is the spiritual embodiment of what his eyes looked like. This was also his eyes even when he was in the flesh spiritually. He didn't have these eyes carnally, but spiritually these were his eyes as well. This was and is the flames of fire within the eyes of Yahushua. This is what Revelations 1 verse 14 is seeing Abba Yahweh through the eyes of Yahushua. But there's more meaning to that, because that fire is significant. The fire of Abba Yahweh means something else as well. So you can see Christ spiritually, you see Most High spiritually. He is the image of the Father, Abba Yahweh. If we are reflecting Yahushua within us, we're also reflecting Abba Yahweh within us. You are an acceptable offering unto Abba Yahweh if you have his only begotten Son's image within you. So let's go to Leviticus chapter 10, Priest Uriah, and we'll start at verse 1.
And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them a censer, and put fire therein, and put incense thereon, and offered strange fire before the Most High, which he commanded them not. And there went out fire from the Most High, and devoured them, and they died before the Most High. Then Moses said unto Aaron, This is that the Most High spake, saying, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me, and before all the people I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace.
We see here that Abba Yahweh uses his fire from his throne. Nadab and Abihu put strange fire that they were explicitly told not to do in the censer, which was unacceptable in Abba's holy temple. The fire from the Most High devoured Nadab and Abihu. Yeah, they died before Abba Yahweh's fire. This is what Yahweh's eyes also represent. They represent what is leaven, what is sin, what is unsanctified, what is unholy, what is ungodly. And if you are that person, the eyes of Yahweh, when they look upon you, consider yourself Nadab and Abihu. This is no fire to mess with. Yahweh's eyes of fire are the fire of the Most High that consumes the sacrifices on the brazen altar, whether sacrifices of sin or trespass or peace or thanksgiving offering. The Most High told Aaron and Moses, let me be clear. This is after he burnt up. I don't know if there was any even ashes left of Nadab and Abihu. When he burnt them up, he said to Aaron and Moses, let me be clear. I will be sanctified in those who come near unto me. And before all the people be glorified. I am just not anybody or anything that you can just do whatever around me. I am holy and I'm sanctified. And I require holiness and sanctifying around me. Period. And it was one of those conversations that if you were to envision or imagine it, it would be someone like in your interpersonal space talking to you and very sternly. And you would be like, yeah, this person's for real. And I'm not messing with them because this person is a person that can set me on fire and I can't do nothing about it. So, yes, sir, hear that. No more will this ever happen again. So, Most High started to give his statutes for his holy temple, just so there wouldn't be another incident of defiling his presence, which is what Nadab and Abihu did when they offered strange fire. So let's get these statutes for his holy temple. We're not going to go through every last one of them, but just to give you a taste of what they are. Leviticus chapter 10, and Priest Hashem, Leviticus chapter 10, verse 8 through 10 for me.
And the Most High spake unto Aaron, saying, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, and that ye may put difference between holy and unholy, and between clean, unclean, and clean.
I don't know how much clearer the Abba Yahweh can be. He said, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, you best be clean. This is a statute forever. Least you die. And there was already proof and evidence that you will die by fire. And let me be clear, Abba Yahweh is letting it be known, the difference between holy and unholy, clean and unclean. I don't want any confusion about this. Because I am sanctified and holy, and I want nothing but sanctified and holiness around me. Period. Are we clear on that? That's what Abba Yahweh is asking Moses and Aaron. Are we clear on that? And they're saying, oh, yeah, for sure, for real. We are clear. So what are you right now spiritually? Are you clean or are you unclean? Will you be able to become clean like Isaiah? Let's take a look at clean and acceptable offerings. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 11, verse 1, Priest Uriah.
And the Most High spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. Whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven-footed, and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat.
This is pretty much your clean animals, your clean foods that you can have as an acceptable offering unto the Most High. And you best be certain that what you're offering to the Most High is clean. Instead of going through all of the clean foods, we're going to skip down to verse 44 and see what happens when you give an unclean, or what is unclean to Abba Yahweh. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 44.
For I am the Most High your Abba. Ye shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and ye shall be holy, for I am holy. Neither shall ye defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, For I am the Most High that bringeth you up out of the land of Egypt to be your Abba. Ye shall therefore be holy, for I am holy. This is the law of the beast and of the fowl and of every living creature that moveth in the waters and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth.
How many times does the Most High have to say, I am holy, you be holy? I mean, it's like he's talking to like a 2-year-old. I'm holy, you need to be holy. If you're not holy, there's going to be consequences. Period. Most High is making very clear, I'm not playing with this, so don't play with me. I mean what I say. I am holy and sanctified. You will be holy and sanctified. If you're not holy and sanctified, you will suffer death. What more consequence can you get than death? You know, I'm sorry, but I said, can I take a time out? You know, can I be put aside for a minute? You're getting immediate death. This was a sixth covenant. You know, there was grace, mercy, and charity, but there's much more grace and mercy and charity in the seventh covenant. There wasn't a lot of it in the sixth covenant, because Abba made very clear, I am holy and sanctified, so will you be holy and sanctified. But this is what the eyes of fire is looking for when he comes for his people. He's looking for holy and sanctified people. Revelations chapter 1, verse 13 through 16, particularly verse 14, the eyes of fire within Yahweh. He's looking for the holy and sanctified people. And if you're not, consider yourself Nadab and Abihu. Are you leavened or unleavened? Exodus 34, verse 25. Priest Hashem, please.
Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven, neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of Passover be left unto the morning.
Don't offer the Most High the blood of the grapes with leaven in your temple. Let me say that again. Do not offer the Most High with the blood of grapes of your spiritual sacrifices with leaven in your temple. Because if you do, you will not be given an acceptable sacrifice. So let's be clear. When I talk about temple, what am I referring to? 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, Priest Hashem.
Know ye not that ye are the temple of Abba Yahweh, and that the Spirit of Abba Yahweh dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of Abba Yahweh, him shall Abba destroy. For the temple of Abba Yahweh is holy, which temple ye are.
There you go. How much more do I mean, I'm going to have to literally just repeat word for word or verbatim, but it can't be any clearer than what Paul said. That is as clear as crystal. And if it doesn't ring like a bell in your ear, me repeating it in other words ain't going to do any better. But how do you defile the temple of the Most High Yahweh? You defile it with sin. You defile it with leaven. Ask King Manasseh about that. Matter of fact, let's talk about that. Let's go to a portion of King Manasseh's prayer, beginning with, "For I have provoked." And again, for those who may not be familiar, King Manasseh was king of Israel and did abomination, desolations in the temple of the Most High. And the Most High, he didn't set him on fire, but I think he wished he had set him on fire to all that had happened unto him. Priest Wisham, go ahead and read that for me. It's starting with, "For I have provoked."
For I have provoked thy wrath and done evil before thee. I did not thy will, neither kept I thy commandments. I have set up the abominations and have multiplied offenses. Now therefore I bow the knee of mine heart, beseeching thee of grace. I have sinned, O Most High, I have sinned. And I acknowledge my iniquities, wherefore I humbly beseech thee, forgive me, O Most High, forgive me, and destroy me not with my iniquities.
Now, Manasseh was motivated in this prayer, one, he had to watch his sons be murdered in front of him before they plucked out his eyes and then plucked his eyes out. So that would be the last thing he ever saw. He was chained up. He was brutalized and probably near death at this point of his prayer. This is what happens when you have leaven in you and you don't care. Because leaven will make you lackadaisical. It will make you, it's like any sugar high. You just get lazy. You want more sugar. You want to just sit. You want to do nothing. Worship is the furthest thing from your mind. You say, I'll get to that when I get to that. And it doesn't happen. And then the yeast keeps perpetuating within you. Or the sin. You keep adding sin to sin to sin to sin. And you're getting further away from Abba Yahweh. So far away, you can't even see his countenance anymore. Like you don't even know where you at. This is what happens when yeast grows in you, when sin grows in you. And this is what the eyes of fire is looking for when he comes back in that spiritual form. Do you want to look like that? Do you want to look like Manasseh did when Abba said, and you know what? Manasseh, I had enough of you and what you've done into my temple. And you know what? Sin, there he is. He's all yours. I'm not going to stand in your way. And boy, did sin have a heyday with Manasseh. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 3, verse 3 for me, Priest Uriah.
Can I add something, Priest?
Yes, please, all means.
Yeah, just in line with what Priest Johanna is talking about, there's another example in our records where the high priest Eli had some sons that were wicked priests who defiled the temple. I mean, even going to the extent with sleeping with women in the temple of the Most High, defiling the offerings that the Most High gave. And because the high priest Eli didn't do anything to harshly chasten his sons, he cut off his whole lineage. And so, which would be exemplary of this fire and not dealing with sin. It's one thing to have sin, but another not to even deal with it. So I just want to add that on to what you were saying, please.
Con, all praises to that. And if you remember, about this time last year, we had a class on Anantha Maranatha. And I'm going to tell you that was the root cause of the Anantha Maranatha is the individuals who receive Anantha Maranatha as unto Saul back in the day of before David became king is they got lackadaisical with their love for the Most High Yahweh. They lost their first love. They lost the love of worshiping the Most High, and sin kept adding to sin until it ruled over them. And then they kept bringing that sin back into the temple. And that's Abba's place. And Abba's like, okay, look, you know what? Since you done made that the synagogue of Satan, if Satan can go ahead and have that temple. I don't need that one. He can have that and he can have you. Let's go to Leviticus 3, verse 3 for me, Priest Uriah.
And he shall offer of the sacrifice of the peace offering an offering made by fire unto the Most High, the fat that covereth the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inward.
This is referencing inwards in the 6th covenant, but in the 7th covenant, you have inwards that are for the peace offering and the thanksgiving offering. And when you're placing that upon the altar, you cannot defile that. If you do, say hello to Manasseh when you see him. So, those flaming eyes about Yahweh Shai, I'm going to keep repeating this because this is what it means. This is what he's seeking. He's seeking for the clean and unclean. He's seeking for the leaven and the unleavened. He's seeking for the holy and sanctified and the ungodly and unsanctified, uncircumcised hearts. He's seeking them out too. Oh, those eyes of fire. They're going to find all the people that he's looking for. All the people he's looking for. And there's going to be some that's going to be happy to see those eyes of fire. There's going to be some that are going to be Nadab and Abihu, Manasseh. Romans chapter 12, verse 1, Priest Uriah, if you don't mind.
I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Abba Yahweh, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto Abba, which is your reasonable service.
This is your temple. This is what is expected of you. This is what, again, because it can't be said enough, the flaming eyes of Yahweh Shai is looking at. He looked at it in his day when he walked the earth in flesh, but best believe when he's coming back, and when he's coming back, he's coming back. And when he comes back, you best be ready for those flaming eyes. Let's go to Malachi. I'm going to stick with you, Priest Uriah. Malachi chapter 3, verse 2.
But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire and like fuller's soap.
You do not want to have the temple of Manasseh when Yahweh Shai's eyes of fire reflecting the Most High's countenance looking at you. He will destroy your temple made of brick and mortar, but of flesh and blood. That temple he will also destroy as Nadab and Abihu. It matters what you put in your temple, not just the unclean foods, but it matters as to who you receive information from. It matters what material you're reading. It matters what you're watching, whether it be on social media, whether it be on streaming, on television, whatever it may be, or what you're taking in through music. All that stuff is either leaven or it's unleavened. 99% of the time it's going to be leavened because that's all ran by a certain group of people who are full of leaven. And it's not just these people, but we're also talking about some so-called religious leaders. So-called religious leaders, like T.D. Jakes, Joel Osteen. Some of them called Khazar, some of them called Ashkenazis. And then we're also talking about those who call themselves Black Hebrew Israelites. We're talking about them too, because they're defiling their temples. Oh, we don't, eat unclean foods, but you're not worshiping the Most High either in spirit. You're worshiping him in flesh. You're worshiping him in the sixth covenant, and that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. And for those who are of the likes of Ron Dalton, Hebrews to Negroes, it's not just the DNA alone that makes you Israel. Because your DNA is full of sin, full of leaven. And David says as much. Let's get that, Priest Rashim, in Psalm 51, verse 5.
Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me.
So David is telling Ron Dalton, DNA is not going to get you into the kingdom. DNA does not make you a child of the Most High Abba Yahweh. So what if you have lineage of Israel? If you are not in the covenant of David and you're not practicing the course of David, all that is for naught that you have lineage of Israel. You might as well just say you're a lineage of the Khazars and the Ashkenazis. You might as well say you're a lineage of Christians because it's going to be the same tunnel you're going down with them into the pit of hell. So it doesn't matter. All these people following these so-called Black Hebrew Israelites, thinking that because I'm Israel, I get to go to Israel. Well, first and foremost, you're not going back to Israel if you're really Israel anyway. Abba has placed his name someplace else. And anyone has been paying attention to the House of Wisdom, it's not called Israel. It's called the city of Adam. That's where the kingdom will be. So you got all these people talking about we want to go back to our homeland of Israel. And all you got within you is leaven and sin. That's what you got going on with you. So it is the eyes of Yahweh Shai when he looks at you, the Ron Dalton group, anybody else that calls himself Black Hebrew Israelite and aren't practicing in the course of David. You know what? Those fiery eyes are going to burn you up like Nadab and Abihu. Period. In the story. So let's get through John chapter 8. What else is those eyes of fire of Yahushua? John chapter 8, starting in verse 1. Priest Hashem, I'm going to go with you on this one.
Yahushua went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst, they say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou?
Do you see the self-righteousness here in these Pharisees and Sadducees? They were the people that Yahushua told his disciples, watch out for them, because they're full of leaven. Be careful with them. Now, this is Yahushua that was in the flesh, the word made in the flesh, telling his disciples, watch out for these people, these Pharisees and Sadducees, these self-righteous, pompous people who think they know more than me. You know, they think they know the word, and I am the word, but they can't seem to recognize that. You know, look at these disgusting people. They're going on a hunt to find a woman caught in the act of adultery. What are you, a freak? I mean, come on. You need to see that. You need to catch her in the very act of adultery. This is a straight up setup. It was a setup for this woman to catch her in the very act. The Pharisees knew who, when, where, and they set up the surveillance to get the woman. Because this, in the end, wasn't really about her. They knew whom she would be with and whom the act would be with that she did it with. Why wasn't the man brought before Yahushua? Why was it just her? Didn't he commit adultery too? They didn't bring him because they arranged this trap for the woman with the man. They wanted her and agreed to let him go. She had no idea this was a setup when this was all going down. They caught her in the very act so that they could accuse her with at least 2 witnesses. So they could say they saw it. You gross son of a gun. Seriously? Mm-hmm. Snatched her up half naked to prosecute her, to murder her, to kill her. And then, you know, let the man run back to his wife, most likely. And she knew probably nothing of his iniquity. And this was all in pride, arrogance, vanity, and self-righteousness, because they wanted to prove a point about the word made in the flesh, Yahushua. So let's see what happens in this story. John chapter 8, verse 6, Priest Hashem.
This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yahushua stooped down and with his finger wrote on the ground as though he heard him not.
Yahushua like, you dirty little scoundrel, you are lower than dog. That's what he was saying in his head. Okay, I see what you did. I know exactly what you did and why you did it. So you're trying to set up a trap and a snare for me, and you caught this woman in your trap and snare, and you're trying to get a twofer out of it. Okay, I see what you're trying to do. So they thought it was checkmate with Yahushua, and you hear that reference quite a bit here at the House of Wisdom because it's a very good analogy. They thought it was checkmate. If Yahushua agreed with them, then they can accuse him of his past words and works that was contrary to the Pharisees. And if he didn't agree with them, then they can accuse Yahushua for not following the law of Moses in the 6th covenant. This was the whole purpose and design to set this woman up so that they can trap Yahushua. So this whole surveillance thing, this whole thing catching the very act, they didn't really care at the fact that she was committing adultery. They just wanted Yahushua. Mm-hmm. So they had to go after her to prove a point. So they get a twofer. They get her and Yahushua. So, you know, what does Yahushua do? So he bends down, writes on the ground with his flaming eyes of fire within him, you know, acting as if he's ignoring them, but he's not. And he pointed to and persecuted their sins by writing it out the charges on them in the dirt. John chapter 8, verse 7 through 8, priest will show.
So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground.
So this is when Yahushua boldly looking into the opponent dead in the face. And this is another chess analogy. So he's looking that opponent in his face. Oh, you think you got me in checkmate? Because they said check. Yeah, it looks like mate. Yeah, let's see you get out of this, because I don't see any moves for you. Yahushua like, really? You don't see no moves? Okay. So Yahushua takes that piece that they put on the board to check him and call check, and they believe it was checkmate, took his piece and then grabbed their piece, snatched it up off the board, and slammed his piece down right where their piece was. And they realized, not only do we not have check, nor do we have mate, but we just made a big mistake, and there's no take back in chess. And they realized it after their own self-conscious of feeling that accusation coming against them from Yahushua, who was without sin. This is what the flaming eyes of fire is about. The flaming eyes of fire are of Yahushua, who was without sin, making accusations against them. Okay, you want to accuse her? I'm accusing you. Let's go to, let's see. What did you
John 8.
Yeah, let's go to
Verse 10.
verse 10, please. Thank you.
Can I add something, priest? Another thing?
Please.
I mean, that, when I read scriptures, use your chamber imagery to paint these pictures. That was a powerful scene for Yahushua to be writing on the ground their sin. Spot on. Oh, yeah, you Pharisee? Yeah, you was just committing adultery with this woman.
Yep.
Probably on this day, this time, whatever.
Yep.
And they were seeing this.
Yep.
Just as they try to present the woman, he was doing the same thing to them. So I don't know. It's just a powerful scene. But
And as you say that, again, reflecting back on this eyes of fire, that's what this eyes of fire will do and can do. It will, with the image, get this in your chamber of imagery, with the image of the Most High Abba Yahweh, which is the eyes of fire, reflecting through Yahushua, pointing out your iniquities. If Abba is calling out your iniquities, you're toast. You're done. There's no defense, because the spirits of sins aren't going to be standing right next to you. It's, no, Abba, that wasn't him. That was me. Nope. Those spirits, we had nothing to do with that. That was all him. So you're going to be left all alone before the mercy seat of Abba, that authority and power. The Pharisees tried to do it, but they couldn't. But Yahushua could have. Like, yeah, they had iniquity on them, but, you still, I got you, I don't like what they did, but you did commit adultery. He could have charged her. He could have persecuted her. But what Abba Yahweh did with the eyes of fire of Abba Yahweh, what Yahushua did with the eyes of fire of Abba Yahweh, was saw within her a contrite and broken spirit. And not only that, but saw that the spirits of sin that was in her, they left. Like, no, you're over here by the word. Yahushua, we ain't sticking around in you. We're out. And so he showed her grace, mercy, and charity, which is the eyes of fire as well, which is when you are like Isaiah with the contrite, broken spirit, realizing that, hey, I'm unclean. This is terrible. And Abba shows grace, like, don't worry, we'll purge that out of you and make you clean. And that's exactly what Yahushua was doing here, as with Isaiah in the temple, in the church in heaven, and the angel purged him with the hot coal off the brazen altar. Yahushua, with his eyes of fire, purged her of her iniquity, and says, well, since your accusers are no longer standing before me to accuse you, I'm not going to accuse you. Go and sin no more. That's what the eyes of fire is about. Let's go to Luke chapter 8, verse 26 for me, Priest Uriah.
And they arrived in the country of the Gadarenes, which is over against Galilee. And when he went forth to the land, there met him out of the city a certain man, which had devils long time, and wear no clothes, neither abode in any house, but in the tomb. When he saw Yahushua, he cried out and fell down before him, and with a loud voice said, What have I do to thee, Yahushua, the son of Abba Yahweh Most High? I beseech thee, torment me not. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man, for oftentimes it had caught him, and he was kept bound with chains and in fetters, and he brake the bands and was driven of the devil into the wilderness.
These spirits of sin in this certain man who's unnamed, they saw Yahushua coming. This is the bright countenance of Yahushua with Abba Yahweh reflecting through him. Because as Yahushua said, you see me, you see the Father, and the Father's in me as I am in him. And even though in the carnal world that couldn't be understood or maybe not even visible, in the spiritual world, it was quite visible. There was no question who Yahushua was to these evil spirits of sin. They knew he was coming. And instead of fleeing from the man, it's like, we'll just go ahead. We'll just talk to Yahushua because, if he wanted to, he can catch us running. So, let's have a conversation with him and seek his mercy. Because, we bad people and all, but, it ain't our time yet. That's what they're saying. They're trying to rationalize and reason with Yahushua. And so they see sweet Jesus, as some would call him, coming like a bright, sunny light. They saw him long before Yahushua got to this certain man. And they fell down before him and they cried, Have mercy. Now, these are spirits of sin asking Yahushua for mercy when they gave no mercy unto this poor man that they had entered into. But that they want mercy. Have mercy and cast us not into the lake of fire. Are you serious?
Right.
You put this man through hell. He's all tethered up and chained up. He's naked. Probably ain't had a bath in who knows how long. And you want me to not send you in the lake of fire? For they knew that he was the Word and he was the Most High Abba Yahweh's only begotten Son. Now, how did they recognize him? Obviously, this flame of fire in eyes. They were glowing way before they even got to him. And so they needed to deal with that. So let's see how Yahushua dealt with this situation, starting in verse 30.
And Yahushua asked him, saying, What is thy name? And he said, Legion, because many devils were entered into him.
These spirits of sin said, well, if we take a roll call, we might be here for a minute. So we'll just say we legions, that's who we are because we are many. Well, Yahushua is not foolish. He knows he knew exactly how many were in him. And I would bet money on the table right here and now. He knew each and every one of their names already. He knew exactly who they were. But he wanted to see what they would say to him. But they did respect him a little bit. It's like, man, you going to make us tell you all of our names? You know how many of us up in here? But just so you know, legions, it's in the thousands. Thousands. It can go from 5,000 to potentially up to 10,000 evil spirits. And it's one being at one time. And, they weren't too afraid to say that they were legion or legions. But look at this world today. We got nearly 8 billion people on this planet. This was in a time of the 5th millennium. We're here in the 6th millennium. We got nearly 8 billion people on this planet today. And I'm sure this wasn't the only man in Yahushua's time that had legions in him. This was just the one that he encountered that we know about. How many legions are in 8 billion people today? That's how wicked this world is. It is dark and it's evil. But the eyes of Yahweh shine, that fire is bright enough. It don't matter how many legions are in this earth. It don't matter how many legions are in any particular person, because it just takes one stare. Crispy critters. Let's go to verse 31.
And they besought him that would not command them to go out into the deep. And there was there an herd of many swine feeding on the mountain. And they besought him that he would suffer them to enter into them. And he suffered them. Then went the devils out of the man and entered into the swine. And the herd ran violently down a steep place into the lake and were choked.
The swine said, nope, we rather die and have sin living in us. I mean, isn't that something? You got pigs that are the dirtiest animal one of the dirtiest animals on the planet. I mean, they're literally a walking garbage disposal, which is why I don't understand why people are eating pork. But one of the dirtiest animals, but this was their design and purpose. But they're dirty enough to realize that, yeah, we eat trash, we eat nasty things, but sin is even nastier than that. And I think we would rather be dead than have a bunch of evil spirits of sin, in us, eating our mush, eating our junk, eating our nasty stuff. That just tells you how bad, how dirty, how unclean sin is, when pigs don't even want it in them. So bring it back to full circle, knowing that the eyes of fire are the countenance of Abba Yahweh on his throne, as described by Enoch. And the Most High and his radiating power is more powerful that even the angels in heaven couldn't even endure his own power, his own fire. So what does Abba's fire do? It comes down like a whirlwind to consume, and it also comes into a powerful lightning strike to consume. But what is it consuming? It is consuming sacrifices. Abba Yahweh's fire consumes sacrifices. So if his eyes, Yahweh's eyes, are a flame of fire, and his eyes are of fire, and Abba's fire consumes sacrifices, what is Yahweh doing in this spiritual embodiment of Revelations 1, verses 13 through 16? Let's get proof and evidence. First book of Adam and Eve, chapter 24, verse 1, priest Rashem.
Then the merciful Abba Yahweh, good and lover of men, looked at Adam and Eve and at their blood, which they had held up as an offering to him, without an order from him or for doing so. But he wondered at them and accepted their offerings. And Abba Yahweh sent from his presence a bright fire that consumed their offering. He smelled the sweet savor of their offering and showed them mercy.
So what happened was Adam and Eve killed themselves. They committed suicide. And this was happening because Adam was having a very difficult time with the transitioning from spiritual to carnal. Now, I know this is going to shock people who've never heard this story before, but this is the truth about Adam. Adam did not, even though he was made from the dust of the ground, he was not flesh. He was like the Elohim. And being like the Elohim, he was a spirit. He was made of spirit. He had the image of Most High Abba Yahweh on him. He had the breath of the Most High within him. So when he fell from such a glorious, beautiful estate of light and had eyes that could see into infinity, into a very weak, feeble, carnal body, he couldn't deal with it because the Most High wouldn't bring him back into the garden and bring him and give him back his glorious estate. So he couldn't deal with it. So multiple times did he try to take his life, and multiple times did Abba Yah raise him back up. Say, nope, You're not going to die. Yeah, I know you're struggling with this, but you're not going to die. So the last occasion occurrence where Adam basically suicided himself, when Abba brought him back to life, this time he took the blood from the ground and made an altar and gave his blood as a sacrifice to Abba Yahweh. Now, Abba Yahweh was astounded by Adam doing this. But in verse 2, it says, and Abba sent from his presence. Sent from his presence, meaning it came directly from Abba himself. A bright fire that consumed their offering. And then he smelled the sweet savor of the offering and showed them mercy, Adam and Eve. This is what the eyes of fire within Yahweh Shai is about. Now, why am I not seeing that being depicted in a painting? Because you can't. You can't depict that in a painting. Because this is not about flesh. This is about spirituality. So let's go to verse 4, Priest Hashem.
Then came the word of Abba Yahweh to Adam and said to him, O Adam, as you have shed your blood, so will I shed my own blood when I become flesh of your descendants. And as you died, O Adam, so also will I die. And as you built an altar, so also will I make for you an altar of the earth. And as you offered your blood on it, so also will I offer my blood on an altar on the earth. And as you sued for forgiveness through that blood, so also will I make my blood forgiveness of sins and erase transgressions in it. And now, behold, I have accepted your offering, O Adam, but the days of the covenant in which I have bound you are not fulfilled. When they are fulfilled, then will I bring you back into the garden. Now, therefore, strengthen your heart, and when sorrow comes over you, make me an offering, and I will be favorable to you.
So the word, which is the word of the Most High, is repeating the words of the Most High to Adam. Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ the Son, the Word, before he became flesh, is speaking to Adam with Abba's countenance within him. And he's repeating everything that Abba's telling the Word to tell Adam. And this is what he told Adam. And he's given a prophecy that we know has been fulfilled already. We've already had Passover. The Word became flesh, and he did indeed die, so that there can be a remission of sins and a blotting out of trespass and transgressions. And all of that is spiritual. Yahweh Shai did not say, and I will do away with all sacrifice so no one would ever have to build an altar ever again. No, that's not what he said. Sacrifices have not been done away with. Sacrifices have been transitioned back to spiritual, where, as we went over already, within the temple of whom you are. The brazen altar is in with you. The worship is in within you. Jeremiah 31 or 33:31. And I will place my laws in their inward parts. That's what this means. Law, statute, commandments, worshiping the Most High is now in your inward parts. You are now the temple. And so Yahweh Shai is saying to Adam, to your descendants in their day, I'm going to sue for forgiveness through my blood, as you did with your blood. And I'm going to blot out transgressions. So Yahweh Shai didn't die so that we could give no more sacrifices. He died so that we can give spiritual sacrifices. It's our sacrifices that has to be offered with the blood of Yahweh Shai sprinkled upon the altar, and with his blood, without spot or blemish, because that's who Yahweh Shai was, a clean, without blemish sacrifice. With his blood, even though we were shaping iniquity, Yahweh Shai was never shaping iniquity because he was not conceived by man. He was conceived spiritually, but he was still a human being. With his blood, we are redeemed. This is what Yahweh was telling Adam what he was going to do because that's what Adam was doing at that time. So, again, this is what the eyes of fire is about. The eyes of fire of Yahweh is who has my blood sprinkled upon them? Who's been worshiping in the course of David? Who's been in these watches, waiting and giving their supplications? So when they come to the court, I can sue for their sins and trespasses to be blotted out and remembered no more. This is the importance of knowing where you're receiving your unleavened versus your leaven. And we're about giving you unleavened. Everyone else, leaven, because they're full of it. That's funny how that's a play on words. Anyway, 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21. Priest Uriah, please. First Kings chapter 18, verse 21.
And Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long halt ye between two opinions? If the Most High be Abba Yahweh, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, I, even I only, remain a prophet of the Most High. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks. And let them choose 1 bullock for themselves and cut it in pieces and lay it on wood and put no fire under. And I will dress the other bullock and lay it on wood and put no fire under. And call ye on the name of your deities, and I will call on the name of the Most High. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be the Most High. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken.
So Elijah was dealing with Jezebel and, the prophets that were killed and the worshiping of false idols. And Elijah basically made a bet, essentially. You know what? I tell you what, man. Let's put my Abba Yahweh up against your Abbas, your deities. Let's see who's going to win this fight. Let's put them in the ring and see what happens. I put all my money on this side over here. And if I lose, then I'll bow down to your deities. They're the power, and I'll be under your submission. But if I win, then my Abba Yahweh is Abba Yahweh, and the only Abba Yahweh. So there was this friendly, or whatever you want to call it friendly, but there was this, like just using today's terminology, a bet. So Elijah was trying to prove a point, and this was the best way he could prove it. And we're not going to, it's a long, long, long story, and I'm not going to go through all the story. I would suggest you read 1 Kings chapter 18. But essentially, they asked for their idols of wood and stone. All right, set a fire on our sacrifice for you. We've been worshiping you. We've been saying you're this and that. Don't embarrass us. Come on. We're waiting on this fire. Come on down. Where's the fire here? And so, Elijah was mocking them and said, well, maybe, you need to do this. Maybe you need to do that. Try something different. Maybe you need to, do a couple, jiggity dances or something, maybe, just do something. I'll give you some more time. Keep on at it. So they were at it for hours. I mean, this was hilarious, to Elijah anyway. It wasn't hilarious to them. They were getting a little tired and frustrated. Like, where is our fire? We got a bet here, and we're losing and losing badly. This does not look good. So, as the story goes, they finally give up. Okay, let's see what your Abba can do. Said, okay, no worries. I tell you what, before I go ahead and call out for my Abba Yahweh to bring forth his fire to prove my point some more, let's get some water. Let's soak this wood here. I want it soaking wet. And they going ahead and they've got water and they soaked it. And they said, no, that's not wet enough. I want it wetter. I want to see puddles. I want this wood dripping with water. Do some more. So they did it. And at this point, there's puddles in there. And like, no, that's not good enough. I want it so wet. I mean, I want it all the way through. There is not one dry spot in the wood. So they kept soaking it. It's okay. I'm satisfied that this is nothing but a puddle of water with wood in it. So let's see what Abba Yahweh will do for me. And let's see what happens. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 36.
And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Most High Abba Yahweh of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art Abba Yahweh in Israel, and that I am thy servant, that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Most High, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Most High Abba Yahweh, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Then the fire of the Most High fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench.
Licked up the water that was in the trench. Now, how many of us seen water get licked up by fire? Usually we're putting fire out with water. But this fire licked it up like it was thirsty. Like, yeah, that was delicious. Anybody got any more water? That's what the fire was saying. But this is the power of the Most High Yahweh. But this is the power and the fire in the eyes of Yahweh Shai. Now explain to me, how are you painting that? How are you depicting that in a picture? That's how you know that people don't understand Revelations chapter 1, verses 13 through 16. They want to make Yahweh Shai a black man. You don't have to make him a black man. He's already a black man. You don't need to do that. This is not about him being a black man. This is about worship. This is about fulfilling prophecy. This is what this is about. The Most High is holy and sanctified. You are the temples, and you must be holy and sanctified. And if your temple is defiled, you will not be able to withstand the purging fiery eyes of Yahweh Shai when he comes back. Do not hearken unto the voices of those cloaking evil spirits of sin that are leaven and filled with leaven and others, and be amongst the children of the devil. When those flaming eyes are coming, and they are coming, reflecting the goodness of Abba Yahweh, his countenance, don't have them staring at you in contempt, because you will not be able to defeat it. And it will be a bad day for you. And like I said, when you see Nahab and Abihu, they'll say, like, look, you should have learned from us, you know, you saw what he did with us, so why are you surprised that this has happened to you? So this is the understanding of Revelations chapter 1, verse 14 in particular for what I'm teaching on. And his eyes were as a flame of fire. Shalom.
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 Q&A. We'll start with the congregation. Also, if there's any questions online, please feel free to go ahead and start writing them out, and we'll get to them. All righty. Nothing like putting together a lesson where I answered everybody's questions. Didn't have no questions out there. So, all right, Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.